When you think of woodworking YouTube content, you expect these large industrial shops showcasing the saw stops, the Powermatics, and the large-scale dust collectors. But let's be serious, everyone starts out with secondhand tools and big box store lumber. Now let's say you make a very careless jump from big box store lumber to some high-quality plywood and hard maple, but don't make that same jump to high-end tools. So what do you get? Some would call it a shit show, while others call it growth. What do we call it? Simple. Kincraft.
Now, if you're new to the channel or even new to woodworking content as a whole, what Tanner just described is ours and every other woodworker's dreams. But let's face it, everyone has to start somewhere, and that somewhere for us was purchasing numerous secondhand tools from any marketplace site we could find. Facebook, Craigslist, eBay, you name it, and we scoured for hours looking for deals. This was the breakthrough of our woodworking journey. What it was not was the breakthrough of our YouTube career. You see, this project was built and filmed in December of 2023. It's now nearly 1 year later, sitting at November of 2024, before we grew the courage to actually edit our first ever Kincraft YouTube video. And as you might have noticed by now, when we filmed this, it was done using an iPhone. And to our surprise, iPhones actually have a great camera. However, they don't teach you that if filming a YouTube video or other widescreen content that you might not want to film in a portrait position. Well, this was news to us, so sorry for all the blank-filled footage. Let's face it, what I can't promise you is that this will be the best ever woodworking YouTube video you've seen. It's missing those big industrial tools that Tanner spoke about earlier. We might not have built this project to your standards. It's missing top-notch 4K camera equipment. It probably does not have the best audio. You're having to suffer through blank-filled footage or even poor transitions. And if you're doing all of that, we thank you. And so here's our promise to you. If you stick around with us for a while, you'll get to witness genuine growth. And no, I'm not just speaking in terms of this video, I'm speaking in terms of all future videos and all things Kincraft. We have high intentions of growing our shop and the tools that are within it, but I think more importantly than any of that is this. You're on YouTube right now, meaning you came here for some form of audio and visual immersion. Now that might be in the form of just seeking entertainment, or it could be that you're actively searching for tips and tricks. But needless to say, you want good content. Here at Kincraft, we promise to not just grow our personal shop. We promise to actively grow our knowledge and equipment pertaining to content, so you can expect a better audio and visual experience in every future upload. And that's our promise to you. But in the meantime, secondhand tools it is.
To catch you up on the last 2 minutes of the actual build, we've been breaking down plywood for all shelving components, adding the dados, and even have a little tip for you. Anytime you're doing shelving and cutting uprights for the shelves, cut them to double their final depth. With that oversized panel cut, you then router your dados into them, and then finally cut the panel in half for that perfect fit and look, ensuring that your shelves are all level. Speaking of getting that perfect look, your prep work is just as important as your finish. Hence why we taped all of our glue joints on the shelves to keep them clean of squeeze out. And while we're talking about the shelves, glue is the main fastener holding them together. Yes, we did shoot brad nails into the dadoed back panels, but those were just to temporarily hold the shelves while the glue was drying. We also used clamps to temporarily hold pressure on the shelves and keep all components square.
Now, this was our first ever commercial build, and boy was it exciting. 2 office desks and a custom built-in book shelving system. It sounds small and rather simple when you say it, but in fact, it wasn't. At least, not with some of the tools that we had at our disposal. And come to think of it, we're over 3 minutes into this video, and we haven't even explained where some of these tools came from. So let's dive in.
So where do we begin? Well, some were inherited, some from marketplace sites, and even a liquidation store, but we'll talk about that later. Now, secondhand doesn't mean crap tools, but maybe a little bit used. But either way, it's a good starting point for a hobbyist woodworker, and I mean, that's where we really started. Those secondhand tools can be used anywhere from a carport to a garage or even a 3,000 square foot shop, if you know what I mean. And I mean really, nothing says dental office more than a desk built by tools that are probably older than some of the workers. But hey, if people trust them with a drill in their mouth, they can trust us with some lightly used secondhand tools.
And so then comes a question we have yet to answer. Where did we get these tools? Well, this Bosch 12-inch dual bevel compound miter saw came from Mark in Granite City, Illinois. And that was due to a simple Facebook marketplace find. So yeah, thanks Mark, you saved us over $300 on this one. And with that, I know you're now probably thinking, what about this Bosch 10-inch job site table saw with the gravity rise stand? Well, this was actually a gift from our father. In 2020, after the passing of our grandfather, we decided to completely renovate his home. The only problem was, again, we had no tools. So luckily for us, our father opted into purchasing this saw and then later gifted it to us. So yeah, thank you, Dad.
Once again, thank you, Padre, but back to the build, where I'm using one of the few newly bought tools at the time, the Craig pocket hole jig. Why? Well, I never did cabinet work before this, and needed an easy yet cheap solution to make these cabinet carcasses. These will be the bottom cabinets that bridge between the two bookshelves. See those dados? To ensure they meet expectations, use a sharp blade or bit when cutting. Because dull tools are like dull movies, pointless and dangerous. Think Ryan Reynolds in Green Lantern. Yeah, I went there.
Jesus, he went there. But on a serious note, when we were planning this build, we watched countless how-to style YouTube videos. We considered multiple ways to construct these carcasses, and ultimately we chose dados. They're crucial for strength, stability, and alignment. And yes, he was correct. A sharp blade or bit is a must when cutting these, but needless to say, dados create a groove to hold your shelves or back panels. These grooves then increase the surface area for glue, ensuring a secure bond while also maintaining alignment during assembly. For us, we utilized a 23/32 router bit to achieve a perfect fit for our base plates, and then used a 1/4 inch box joint blade for our backer panels. Now then, throw some glue in those joints and slap a couple clamps on, and we're working on creating King Craft's first ever cabinets.
Back to Craig, not the cameraman of a well-known woodworking YouTube channel, the tool. Here I'm adding plywood strips to the top of the cabinets, not only for spacing, but to also give us a solid surface to screw the countertop on later. Much later. Like 8 months later. Oh, hi Oliver. Good to see you're wearing your PPE.
Now let's get on to building some desk filing cabinets. This Festool TS55 track saw might look new, but she's far from it. She's been well used and abused by none other than eBay user Gotta Sell It All 1. But that didn't stop us from finding this deal and saving us over 150 bucks. And used and abused aside, this tool probably is the MVP of this build. Without a big cabinet saw and outfeed table, keeping cuts straight would have been nearly impossible. So our track saw was utilized for all material breakdown until we were comfortable with further breakdown on our job site table saw. And here we are doing just that. And by we, I think I mean me. So sit back and enjoy the show, because doing anything alone on this table saw is the ultimate test of skill, patience, and the ability to swear in 3 different languages.
Sorry I need an education, Logan. I'm not trying to be a super senior next year. And besides, it was the same shit, just a different day. Notice how you change shirts in a matter of milliseconds? Disregard that 4th wall break and focus up on how I was there helping Logan cut the plywood components of the desk. And just like this being our first set of cabinets we've ever done, this was also our first time ever doing desk. Let alone desk that had to match a perfect aesthetic to pre-existing ones in the office. Here we are cutting all components for the outer box of the desk. Building a box that will hold boxes that will probably hold some boxes. Saying it like that makes it sound so simple. God, are we wrong. Now back to the build where Logan is marking where a dado will be cut for the bottom plate to fasten to. To cut the dado, we are using a sharp router bit that is attached to a second-hand bought DeWalt palm router. Who might have sold us this? Well, none other than OpenBox 247, brother to Ladies Man 217 from Transformers.
Hey, cut it wrong.
You're way high!
Yeah.
And if Logan didn't speak clear enough there, he said, and I quote, "I cut it wrong." Not me, him.
But never mind my mistake. And yes, I did say it was my mistake. And well, we'll get back to that later. But until then, we're gonna get on to some real woodworking. You know, that kind that actually got us into this hobby. Here we are milling down some 8/4 hard maple to create our client's desktop as well as standalone legs. In doing so, we're using our second-hand purchased 6-inch straight blade Steel City jointer. And do you want to know the best part about purchasing this machine secondhand? It came with over 1,000 board feet of 20-year-old air-dried rough-cut cherry and oak wood. But do you want to know worst of all? We didn't have a trailer when we purchased this, and we've yet to go get that wood. And if you were paying any attention at all to the beginning of this video, then you understand that this footage was filmed nearly 1 year ago. So I'd say we're shit out of luck on that lumber now.
Yes, we are in fact shit out of luck. What we are shit in luck with was getting this DeWalt 735 13-inch planer for free from a liquidation store. Now no, it technically wasn't free, but we did stumble upon a pallet which had a toilet, 1 chandelier, 2 Christmas trees, and a partridge in a fucking pear tree. Oh, and this planer. all for the price of $350 dues. So we sold all the other shit and we were in luck because that DeWalt 735 13-inch planer was now free.
And for being free, boy is she nice. And like all planers, it served the purpose of getting all of our materials to a desired thickness, that being 1 3/4 inches for this build. From there, we used our jointed edge against our ripped fence and ripped all these maple boards down and created a perfect S4S lumber ready for some glue ups. And speaking of that, we won't be showcasing any footage as such. Why, you might ask? Because every woodworking YouTuber does, and I'm sure you're probably all tired of the same content. That, or because we never got any footage of this. Remember, I filmed this on an iPhone. My iPhone. Tanner, on the other hand, well, at that time he had a bit of an outdated, scratched, sluggish, cracked, glitchy, and obsolete straight-talk phone with quite possibly one of the worst cameras that was similar to that of a Polaroid from the early 2000s. He now has an iPhone, so no more missed footage. But still, we're gonna let you decide why there's no glue-up footage. But again, the process is still the same of that of any other woodworking YouTuber. So just imagine it.
Yeah, that's right. My camera quality was similar to those used in 80s horror films, yet they get called timeless classics in their genre, and mine get verbally assaulted by my older brother. Now after 3 minutes your time and a few days our time, Logan finally fixed his mistake on the desk carcass. Which brings us back to using our second-hand, eBay-bought, Festool Carvex jigsaw, purchased from none other than tonight's Alright. So here Logan is cutting out what is called a toe kick, or you might call it a toe fold, toe hold, toe stop, toe piece, tippy toe, toe clip, toe jam, or tiptoe. And to save myself from some cruel comments, no, I'm not in defeat. There are literally hundreds of terms used to describe the recess at the bottom of cabinets.
Wow, that escalated quickly. And you might not have a thing for feet, but I will say, you at least have a thing for toes. And that, my friend, is just weird. So moving on to something different, dominoes, which oddly enough, rhymes with toes. Here we are using our newly purchased Festool Domino 500. Sadly, we searched for a used secondhand version of this, sheerly just due to its 4-figure price tag. But our search ended without success. The results were always the same. We would find one and then it would sell before we had a chance to even get our hands on it. Or it was just simply too beat up to make the price worthwhile. So we utilized Amazon and got this one new and shipped to us in just 2 days. And I will say this tool is worth the price tag. Joining that outside mitered corner would have otherwise been a disaster without these dominoes acting as alignment tenons. So slap a little glue in there and let's build some cabinets.
I'm not into toes, you son of a bitch. I told you they went by many names, all involving toes. And do you know what else I told you? That this cut was dangerous. But we had to make our own edge banding, even though we specially bought a 200-foot roll specifically for this project. Ripping thin strips like this with a blade moving over 3,000 RPMs and having a fence to then sandwich your material is literally asking for something bad to happen. But I guess face frames for this cabinet was more important than our own safety. But if at first you do not succeed, try again. And that's exactly what we did here.
We're brothers, Tanner, so if I'm a son of a bitch, then what's that make you, bud? But regardless, after this scare, we're on to things that are much safer, like gluing these newly cut and much needed face frames, not edge banding. And doing this added step will add far more durability to the fronts of these cabinets that will see near daily use than any edge banding. But yes, I did order 200 foot worth of edge banding, but we'll get to that later. Until then, what we're doing here is adding brad nails to the fronts of these face frames. And I know what you're probably thinking, why add a nailed hole to the front of a near finished product? Well, in this instance, we're going to simply add wood fill to these minute holes. In the end, we're doing full overlay doors for this, so these holes, once filled, will be hardly ever noticed.
Now onto the construction of the desk, where Logan is pre-drilling for the connecting strut between the drawers and the solid maple leg. This strut has no effect on the strength of the desk and was only needed to match the pre-existing desk aesthetic. On paper, this seems like a rather small and easy task, but Logan and I always seem to make mountains out of molehills, as we took our sweet time measuring and drilling out these holes. But at that time, we were still new to this hobby and what is now a career, so I'd say we did pretty good overall. The opposition to that is we proceeded to do this same exact thing on the other desk. I know me not being there to help Logan in this clip might not give me the best look as a woodworker or a brother, but I do have to get an education and look on the bright side. Some of the best woodworking channels on this app are one-man shops. So with that, you're welcome, Logan.
You know, come to think of it, you're right. Nearly all the big woodworking YouTubers I can think of are single-man shops. But not all. At least not anymore. Or at least once you graduate. But until then, we'll just be 1.5 men woodworking content creators. And with the construction of these desk carcasses finishing up, we are on to building drawer boxes. And just like everything else in this video, this was a first for us. These are going to be standard drawer boxes. Nothing fancy, a box fastened together with Kreg screws, wood glue, and prayers. Lots and lots of prayers. And no, that doesn't mean they were built poorly. It just means that they whooped our asses during this building process. So here's our process, or at least the one we tackled for our first time ever making drawer boxes. We cut down the drawer bottoms so they were a 1/2 inch bigger than the final dimensions of the drawers themselves. This allowed for a 1/4 inch to then get inlaid into the dadoed side panels. The side panels were cut down earlier when we were breaking down all other materials.
Remember the 200-foot roll of edge banding I spoke of earlier? We'll get used to it for the next minute, because I would rather almost lose a finger than do this much edge banding again. It's actually a rather simple process. Step 1, heat it up, but not so much that you set off the smoke alarms. This isn't a cooking show, although the steam iron does pair nicely with a side of burnt knuckles. Step 2, press it down like your life depends on it, because if this doesn't stick, your YouTube subscribers will leave snarky comments about it. Or even worse, leave comments about how you're the one complaining but not doing the job. But like Logan said earlier, at this time, I had a bit of an outdated, scratched, sluggish, cracked, glitchy, and obsolete straight talk phone with one of the worst quality cameras that was similar to one of a Polaroid from the early 2000s. So no, there was no footage of me doing this. Step 3, cut off all the excess and cry, because this took entirely too long and we probably should have bought a secondhand edge bander. But live and learn.
A little tap tap here and a tap tap there, and with that all components are ready to finally make a box. And like we stated earlier, a little wood glue and Kreg screws will do this job perfectly. Add in a laser engraved logo for all to see, and these things are starting to look like something. And sure, they're missing the drawer faces, but we plan on this for now. Those Kreg screws were intentionally placed at the fronts and the backs of the drawer boxes as a means to create a clean side panel. The front faceplates will get installed later and completely cover the currently visible Kreg screws.
On to something new but easy, installing the Bloom undermount drawer slides. Locking mechanism, not the drawer slides themselves. We, once again, do not have footage of that. But give us a break, it's our first video. The footage we did get, on the other hand, was of Logan doing even more dangerous cuts for you all to critique him in the comments. And if you think cutting 3/4 inch face frame is dangerous, then imagine cutting 1/8 inch edge banding, especially on a job site table saw. But like I said earlier, I would much rather almost lose a finger than do any more of that edge banding.
A homemade edge banding. Now, I'm not sure where Tanner's hatred for iron-on edge banding comes from, seeing as how the process for homemade is nearly the same, if not more work. But needless to say, that guy hates edge banding. But I guess that's why our business currently operates with just 1.5 men. So here I am applying the newly made edge banding, and the process is simple and one that you've repeatedly seen in this video. Glue and brad nails. The glue acts as a long-term bond, and the nails to be temporary clamps. Clamping each of these individually would 1. Take a lot of time, and 2. Not allow us to continue on working with these faces. By brad nailing them, we were able to go straight into installing them on their respective drawers. But like I said earlier, there's more work involved when making your own edge banding. You have to cut the materials to size, or in our case, slightly oversized. You then have to secure it to whatever other materials you're trying to cover. With it being oversized, you then have to use a router to flush trim it. If you want a decorative edge, you then have to route that. So there can be a lot more steps and time overall. These were all factors that we weighed when deciding on how we wanted to make our drawer faces. What we haven't mentioned is this. Yes, it is more time consuming, however, the finished product will look nicer as well as be far more durable. And these are drawer faces for an office that will get opened and abused near daily. So a little more work was worth it for an overall nicer piece.
Considering we missed hours of other footage, we could never forget about sanding. So here we are. We're going to bore you with it like no other woodworker does. Just joking with you, but we will show you us working up the grits to achieve that perfect finished look and feel. We worked up from 80 grit all the way to 180. We will be using a Rubio monocoat finish on all solid maple portions of the desk, so there was no need to work up to 220. The manufacturer recommends stopping at 150, but we do whatever we want. Or we didn't have 150 on hand. Now I know you're probably thinking, those sanders sure look brand new, and that's because they are. Every sander you have seen in this video, they were bought new. Originally, we just bought one Festool Rotex and one Merca palm sander. After seeing the difference in quality and efficiency, we quickly bought the second Merca. And if there's anything you take from this video, let it be this. Invest in your finishing tools before all others. Any cheap secondhand saw can make a straight cut, but there is no cheap secondhand sander that can achieve this level of finish.
Finally, onto installing these drawer fronts. And though it's hard to see in the video, we made these with a continuous grain so that each drawer face flowed together with the next. These are full overlay doors, and we installed the faces using the double-sided tape trick. Apply a piece of double-sided tape to the back of the drawer face. Place spacer blocks where needed, and then hold the face in place. The tape acts as a temporary hold, while you can then apply screws to the back of the drawers. And there you have it, complete drawer boxes.
Now let's hope installing hinges and doors will go that smooth as well. Luckily, we had the Craig concealed hinge jig to make our lives a lot easier. After we figured out the math and spacing needed with some much needed trial and error, we were off hugging out material on nearly finished doors.
How you doing?
What do you need?
I can't see it. The drill's in my way.
That right there is proof that every job can be made into a two-man job. Just like installing these doors, where Logan held the doors plumb and I screwed them into place. This will not be their final orientation, as later on we will do some final tinkering with, once everything has been installed. And that's what makes Bloom nice, are their micro adjustments. Bloom? Who knows?
And with that, we're on to finish. So let us...
No. That one's taken, Logan.
I don't think saying let us explain where our HVLP paint sprayer came from is taken. This video is literally about secondhand tools and how we obtain them. So, as I was saying, let us tell you where we purchased this Fiji Minimite HVLP paint sprayer. Much like our sanders, this was purchased new from Amazon. The concept is the same as what Tanner explained earlier. Invest in your finished products. So that's just what we did with this one. And yes, there are far better and far more expensive options out there, but this was the right one for us.
We used pre-catalyzed lacquer to finish all portions of the actual cabinets, which was a fairly easy yet tedious process, as in between coats we hand sanded any imperfections with 600 grit just to achieve that smooth feel while still having maximum protection. And as we sprayed the final layers of finish, it really started to look like Christmas Dopinder. Let us know if you get that reference down below.
This build and video is really a testament to those DIYers, those who don't have the big industrial shops, or just those looking to get into the space. The people that have a dream and don't let anything stop them. Now no, we're not saying we were those people, but being woodworkers was a shot in the dark that we didn't know had this large of a platform and glorious people to watch, learn, and enjoy what we do and love, so thank you. And remember, you don't need new tools or even the best tools to get started. Just start.